All right, what are we doing today?
You tell me.
Ready? Hey, this is Davin with Hagerty, our Redline Rebuild Updates, working on our small block Chevrolet. And today the goal is to get as much of the stuff out on the countertops shoveled into the block. Well, for starters, we got to do a short block, right? So we need to put the crankshaft in, the rods, the pistons, the bearings, get it into the block, establish our short block. Now, before I can do any of that, I did go through already and measure all my bearing clearances, so I know what those are, so that task is now shortened. But I do need to verify that the crankshaft numbers line up with what I gave Doug to grind to, which I'm sure they do, but it's always good to double check. So that's where I'm going to start, and then we'll move on from there. Crankshaft mic'd out perfectly. So we are ready for that assembly process. Now, I went through and I lubed up the camshaft. You can put the camshaft in before or after the crank. It doesn't really matter. However, I do find that it's nice to have the camshaft in first because, well, it's easier to see it and kind of guide it through if you need to. So I'm going to lube up my bearings for the camshaft, and I'm using the old nylon toothed big gear for the just a handle. And let's see, after that, onto the crankshaft and a whole lot of time-lapse stuff. So here we go. All right, so here's my rockauto.com tip of the day. When you're installing your rear main seal, at least on this Chevrolet, make sure to do a couple things. First, install the seal in the correct direction. This larger lip needs to point towards the center of the engine. Secondly, put a little RTV on this flat surface. You can also do it on the cap side or the block side. But you want to make sure you get some sealer up into that corner, obviously on both sides. And lastly, offset your seal so that your main cap and your seal seams do not line up. These are a couple things that I have found that help minimize leakage of your rear main seal. Right on. Now, the crankshaft is in and it spins freely. But I got to tell you this. We've had some discussion online there that's, man, why are you going through all this effort on a stock build? I'm going to tell you why. We've went through and done absolutely everything to the T. We've went through and bored everything. We've ground the crankshaft. We know everything's true and all that. My oil clearances are perfect. But put the crankshaft in, didn't want to turn. Now, first thing you check, did I put my bearing caps on right? Well, yes, of course, because they're all stamped. They're all going in the right direction. Well, I got a number stamped on them, so I know they're in the right position. Bearing halves are all correct, so on and so forth. So next step is, what happened to the crankshaft bore? So ultimately I had to take the block back over to Thoroughby's and have them line hone it and wash it and do all that stuff again by hand and get it back to this point. But my point is, just because it should be doesn't mean it is until you check it. There we have it. On to the Pistons. Well, there we have it. Our crank is in. Piston assemblies are in. We've got to move on to the timing. But unfortunately, having to have the block rehoned kind of set us back by a couple days. So we don't have anything more for you today. But hey, get out in the shop, go get your work done. Find that snag that I ran into. See ya.